I, 37 male, told my wife, 36 female, that our roles are far from equal in our relationship and that I'm not missing seeing my brother so she can go on a 2-week vacation with her friends. How do I get through to her? Been together for 17 years. Hi, I'll try to keep this short. Both in our 30s and have been together 17 years. I babysit, the male and male provider for my family of 6, partner and 4 kids. I work 5 days a week and sometimes work on weekends if we need a little more cash. My partner is a stay-at-home wife and hasn't worked since our eldest was born. I wake up at 5 a.m. and take the dogs out, prepare kids' lunches/snacks, ensure all school essentials such as bags, etc. are at front door, then head to work in a physically demanding job. Kids are picked up for daycare/school at 7. Due to after-school activities and clubs, etc., they're not home until 6. I come home at 7 and make dinner most nights. Help with homework, do bath time for the little ones, do dishes, take dogs out for a longer walk again, put little ones in bed if the house is a mess. I will, of course, clean it. I pay for everything: mortgage, bills, insurance, groceries, clothes, toys, technology, after-school activities, dates, a woman to deep clean the house once a month. My partner wants to go on a 2-week-long vacation with her friends, which will overlap with the weekend away I had planned with my brother, who I rarely get to see as we live so far away. She wants me to cancel my trip as she's tired and needs a break. We got into an argument over it in which unkind things were said on both sides, but I am unwilling to budge on this. How do I get through to her that I need some rest? Hello all, sorry I haven't replied to many comments, but I have read most of them. I've seen a couple questions I'd like to answer and figured that making a post would be better than replying to individual comments. My children are between 16 and 6. My wife doesn't take anyone to their club/activities. Younger children's school finishes at 3 p.m. Their clubs are in the school. Older kids' school finishes at 3:30. They stay in a club until 4:30 and then go to a youth group with their cousins until they come home. My eldest make their way to and from school on their own, while my youngest are picked up and dropped off. Kids are, of course, able to eat breakfast at home, but often enjoy eating with their friends before school starts at 8. My wife doesn't walk the dogs because she doesn't like to, and frankly, they don't like her. I enjoy my time walking the dogs because it allows me some time to think. We have a large yard with dog houses, toys, and some agility equipment for them to use while I'm gone. They also get mental stimulation through Kongs and puzzle toys, which have been prepared and stored in the freezer. What does my wife do all day? Honestly, she's not isolated. She often tells me of things she's done with her friends, sister, mother, etc. She goes to the gym, does and enjoys hobbies such as embroidery, knitting, and some jewelry design. She changes what she likes to do, says it keeps things fresh. Housework-wise, she does the laundry, I fold and distribute later. She will give dogs water and prepared meals/enrichment. We have those robot vacuums and air purifiers to deal with the dog hair, but my wife will vacuum if heated. I wipe countertops, put dishes in dishwasher after meals. Older kids take care of their own rooms/bathrooms for an allowance. Have you ever not truly noticed something until it's right in front of your face? I was so mad because I wanted to go see my brother and she wanted to go on vacation with her friends. Yes, she wants me to pay for it. And things have been like this for so long that I didn't see how unfair and imbalanced things were until I truly started to look at how our duties were distributed. You've all given me a lot to think about. I'll enter some comments later. Update. Here is the update. It's not good. It's not totally bad either because apparently I've sprouted a backbone. A lot has happened, and I feel like my world is falling apart. This will be long. The following few paragraphs are some more background. The update will be marked with so you guys can find it faster. Some of you have suggested that I enable her behavior, and I'd like to address it to explain how things got this way to begin with. My wife worked from age 16 to 20, but I'd often come home after work during the early stages of her pregnancy, and she would tell me of how bad the morning sickness had been and how she was getting in trouble at work for being late or not turning up due to the issues she was having. One night, after a long discussion about things, she suggested that it would be easier and better for her and the baby if she stayed home during the pregnancy. I was reluctant at first because we weren't exactly swimming in cash, but ultimately the health of my wife and child were more important than a few months of added stress. To save money, we moved in with my wife's older sister and her husband, Mrs. Thaler. She was so happy to have somebody to stay with and bring new joy and life. The pregnancy wasn't easy on her. She was often cranky and uncomfortable, and as a result, could be quite mean, rude, and a bit handsy. So, after further discussions with my wife and her sisters, I took on more of the household duties, such as cooking, etc. And when my eldest was born, my wife's sister helped with childcare while I was at work for the first year. But after she and my wife had a fight when he was about a year old, we moved into our own place. But my wife struggled during the day when I wasn't there to help, so we ultimately decided to put him in another daycare facility. I would drop him off on my way to work and would pick him up on my way back home when I finished. Once home, one of us would cook dinner while the other watched the baby. Back then, we had no pets, so household duties weren't too much and could be handled by a couple hours cleaning on Saturday or Sunday when we could split it between us both. When my son was 3, my wife's sister offered to get her a job where she worked. My wife had to do an interview, but my SIL was confident she'd get the position. My wife was reluctant and nervous, but attended the interview and was offered the job. I don't remember much of our celebrations that night, but it ended in the conception of our second child. My wife told me when she'd been at her new job for just over a month, she stuck it out for a couple more weeks, but was fired due to not turning up for shifts. I asked one of her doctors about the issues she was having so early in the pregnancy, back pain, leg pain, nausea, etc., but my wife cut me off before I could finish and asked me to leave the room. When we got home, she berated me for speaking to her doctor like she was a child and told me that if she wants something brought up to her doctor regarding her pregnancy, that she'd do it herself. I had embarrassed her because she knew her body and knew what was normal and what wasn't. I still thought the issues had to be addressed with her doctor, but whenever I brought it up, her mood swings would get worse. My mother-in-law came to live with us when my second was born for a short while when I returned to work after my paternity leave. When my daughter was about 4 months old, my wife expressed she was having difficulty looking after her by herself during the day, but my MIL, who had her own life and responsibilities, couldn't come back and stay indefinitely. We had a 2-bedroom apartment then, and having her sleep on the couch didn't seem fair to me. So we enrolled my daughter in daycare while my son was at nursery. My son went to daycare after nursery as well, so I'd pick them both up around 6 p.m. and head home. My wife promised she would speak to her doctor about the possibility of depression, etc., and her mood did improve with the additional help with the children. My wife took on cooking and cleaning duties then, but struggled as well. I would often come home to burned/ruined food and would need to make something else anyway. So I ended up cooking dinner most nights so we wouldn't be wasting food. During a weekend away for a friend's wedding, when my daughter was 5, I suggested that my wife go back to work. Both kids were in school now, and I thought we could improve our lifestyle with 2 incomes. We had recently bought a house because the apartment was too small for us and the children needed their own rooms. She seemed hesitant, which I understood after being out of work for so long, but she agreed. She applied for several positions but had no luck with interviews or callbacks. We found out she was pregnant with our third not long after that, and returning to work was put on hold again. The pregnancy was difficult as expected, but again, my mill came to stay when I had to return to work. She stayed for a while but had to return to her own home eventually. Before she left, my wife told me that she feared she would struggle with our second daughter, just as she had the first 2. I tried to reassure her, but she seemed to become insanely depressed the second her mother left. I would return home with the 8 and 5-year-old to a screaming baby, and nothing done around the house. Her mood and actions affected the entire house, so reluctantly I put her second daughter in daycare as well, but I told my wife she had to talk to her doctor and that we'd no longer be having any more children. She was, and we had a huge fight about it, but I got a vasectomy and she accepted it. We've always used protection. My wife is on birth control and I always use condoms, but given that it had already failed twice for us, when my first was conceived after my 21st, I was so drunk I don't think I wore one. Our second after celebrating her new job, and our third at our friend's wedding. I didn't want it to happen again. But obviously the universe had other plans for us, and our third daughter was born 2 years after our second when we were celebrating a promotion I'd gotten at work. Obviously, this is a brief summary of events, and there have been several other moments through the years when I've suggested she go back to work, but I thought I'd try to provide further background for those who are curious about how we got to where we are. Someone asked if my wife has had a break recently. She has never taken 2 weeks away before, but she goes away a couple of times every year for weekend trips with family and friends. The longest she has been gone is a week. In regards to the dogs and why they don't like her, she doesn't like them. She thinks the mental stimulation I provide through Kong toys, games, puzzles, etc. is unnecessary, but freaks out if their energy levels are too high. One is a German Shepherd, which I was gifted for my birthday, and the other is a German Shepherd Malinois mix my wife brought home because she thought our GSD needed a friend. Yes, they have been to training and were originally in doggy daycare for the first couple years. On to the update, suppose. Update. So, as one of you suggested, I took a day off of work. I genuinely wasn't feeling too good either, but I intended to speak to my wife about the situation while the children were at school. Kids all left for school by 7ish. My wife came downstairs at 11:45 and seemed very shocked to see me. She asked what I was doing at home, and I explained I took a sick day as I wasn't feeling well. The first words out of her mouth were, "But we need the money, you don't look that bad." I made a face, and she quickly asked what was wrong and asked if she could get me anything. I asked for a water, and we sat on the couch, but soon her phone rang, and she went off into the kitchen to talk. She came back a while later and asked if I wanted to get something to eat, and I said we could make something from the kitchen. She said she wanted to go out, and I said we could order takeout, but I wasn't in the mood to go out. The dogs had been sitting by the chest freezer waiting for the pantry for their lunchtime enrichment for 10 minutes now, and I asked if she was going to feed them. She flopped onto the couch and asked me to get it. I said no. She asked again, and I said no, again. She glared at me, but eventually got up and gave it to them. Emmy referred to me as, quote, someone without funds. She asked me to take her out again several times, and I kept saying no. I was starting to get a migraine, which I told her, but she kept asking, suggesting we could go shopping, she could get her nails done, and we could enjoy the day together. I refused, said we had something to talk about, and she said we would, then went upstairs. She came back down 40 minutes later, dressed up, and said if I wasn't going to take her out, she'd go herself. I tried to get her to sit down so we could talk, but she blew me a kiss at the door and rushed outside without even locking it. And while she was out, I took some of your advice and canceled the cleaning lady we have. I apologized to her as I really did like her, but she was very understanding, and I think we parted on good terms. She returned home at 8 p.m. and immediately asked where dinner was. I told her the kids and I had already ate. She asked where her dinner was, and I told her she'd have to make something for herself. She said she'd just order something, and I told her no. This gave her pause, and she looked at me like I'd just told her she had to starve. She said she couldn't cook, and O told her, I know she's perfectly capable of making something. We have plenty of foods, and it's not like she has to be Gordon Ramsay to stick a tin of soup or something on the stove. She left again and returned 30 minutes later with McDonald's for herself, which set the younger kids off. Yes, they'd already ate, but she walked in the door, finishing her burger and drink with an empty bag and McFlurry tub. Our youngest, asked why she didn't bring her any ice cream, and my wife said, Daddy said I wasn't allowed to. I did not say this, and I swear it took more strength than I'd like to admit not to yell at her in front of our daughter. When the kids were in bed, I asked her to sit and talk about the situation regarding our trips. She asked if I'd rescheduled with my brother, and I firmly told her no, and that I wouldn't be. I tried to have a conversation. I explained I felt our duties were incredibly uneven and that I'd like for her to take on more responsibilities with the children and the house. She argued that she does enough, and I asked her to make a list. She put laundry down, feeding the dogs, making doctor's appointments, and grocery shopping, and I brought out my own list with everything I've told you guys so far, and added that I created the dogs' meals. She simply has to give it to them. I fold and distribute laundry, take kids to doctor's appointments, and that the groceries are ordered through an app on her phone, delivered to the house, and I put them away. She got up then. I asked what she was doing, and she said she was going upstairs. I didn't argue. I didn't want it to resolve to an argument and wake the kids up. She was visibly shaking with anger. A while later, I went upstairs as well. She was on the phone to someone, and when I entered the room, she demanded I leave and go sleep on the couch. I refused and climbed into bed. She hung up the phone and demanded again that I sleep on the couch. And again, I refused. She grabbed me and physically tried to drag me out. That resulted in a fight, and I ended up sleeping on the couch because she was going to wake the kids up again. The following days were much of the same. I have stopped folding and putting away her laundry. I do it for myself, and the younger kids and my two oldest take their piles and put them away themselves. I still cook for the kids, but have told my wife that she has to make her own meals. Petty, I know. I think my eldest heard us arguing because he asked if he could take the dogs out for a couple walks with his friend during the week. He hazes and he says he's enjoying it, but I think he and my wife had an argument the other day because he's been very, very distant with her, and things just feel off. He's asked me about 3 times if I love him, or, course, I've told him there is nothing he could ever do to make me not. Yes, I've tried to talk him about it, but he doesn't want to talk yet, and I need to respect that. I think pushing him could be a mistake. Thursday night, my wife asked if we could have a drink, as I had to leave on Friday to see my brother. I had ones, but honestly, it went right to my head and honestly just wanted to sleep. She kept trying to initiate sex, but I wasn't in the mood. I woke up Friday morning and my wife was gone, so was her suitcase. I've texted and called, but there's been no answer other than a text telling me we'd talk about it when she's back. She ignored me and went on her trip regardless, and I am furious. I have left her some cash in the bank account. She has the card too, but I've removed everything else into another account. I had to call my brother why I wouldn't be coming to see him, and he arrived here on Saturday with my nephew and 2 nieces. The house is very full, but honestly, it feels more open than it has in a long, long time. The kids seem relaxed, and so do the dogs. I don't know what will happen with my wife, but I am done. I can't afford a lawyer right now, and unfortunately, I don't know any who could give me a deal or do me a favor. But this marriage is over. It should have been a long time ago. My best friend kissed my husband, and it's destroying me. I phase. I've been with my husband, 27 years old, for 6 years, married for 4 years, and we have 2 kids, 3 and almost 1 females. Everything in our relationship is perfect for us. He's the best husband and father to our kids that I could have asked for. I am absolutely in love with him, and his actions and words have always shown me that he feels the same way. There's no better feeling than going to sleep in his arms every night. Last weekend, my husband and I had some friends over, and we were having a barbecue. We were all outside in the backyard surrounding my husband, who was on the grill. As the food got closer to being ready to eat, we all started sitting at our backyard table. Once the food was all ready and at the table, my husband went inside to use the washroom and get another case of beer. I didn't realize that my best friend, 28 female, had followed him. When he was coming back out, my best friend hid behind the wall separating our kitchen and living room and surprised him by pulling him and forcing a kiss. My husband immediately pushed her back and yelled, "WTF?" She immediately started crying and ran out of the house and left. My husband came back into the backyard and asked to speak to me privately and immediately told me what had just happened. I was shocked and told him that it would be okay and that we could talk after everyone else left. I managed to put on appearances for the next couple of hours, but I was mentally distraught. After everyone left, my husband sat me down and told me what happened and showed me the footage from our living room camera. It was exactly as my husband has described it. My best friend of 10 years, the person who I treated as my literal sister, forcibly kissed my husband. After the 3rd date with my husband, she was the one I told that I was going to marry him. She knows how much I love him and how strong our relationship is, and still she chose to try to come in the middle. For fuck's sake, our 3-year-old calls her auntie. My best friend tried showing up the next day just to talk, and my husband had to hold me back from beating the crap out of her, and he kicked her out and told her to not come back. It's been almost a week now, and I'm nowhere close to moving on. I don't blame my husband one bit. He's completely innocent in this, and if anything, he's the victim. I've been lying down on my husband's chest and just crying every day and night. I'm so angry and frustrated and don't know what to do. My husband has been amazing, and like always, he just gets it and understands how I'm feeling. He brought me flowers almost every day and cooked my favorite meals multiple times in the last few days. I love and appreciate him all the more for it. I just don't know how I'm going to move on and trust any of my friends again after this. Edit update on my page. Update. After reading a lot of the comments, I realized that it was possible that my husband was having an affair with my best friend, and he knew about the camera and acted accordingly to make sure I didn't suspect an affair. Her running out of the house crying, my husband showing me the footage before I asked, and his love bombing would all make sense if he was cheating with my best friend. I can't be with the cheater, and I had to make sure my husband was loyal to me. On a side note, I made sure that my husband was okay and well after being forcibly kissed, and he said he was fine and he didn't feel assaulted, and it was just a kiss. He said that he was just worried about me because he knew how much this friendship meant to me. So, Over the weekend, I looked through my husband's phone and laptop while he was doing yard work. Both of us have full access to each other's phones, and I didn't find anything out of the ordinary in my husband's phone. I checked his messages, WhatsApp, social media, and deleted messages folder. There was nothing suspicious on his phone or laptop. This morning, after my husband left to go to work, I arranged for our next door neighbors, a friendly elderly couple, to watch the girls for a couple of hours, and I went to my best friend's place without telling her I was coming. She works afternoon shifts, so I knew she would be there in the morning. She let me in, and she seemed scared, and I demanded to know the truth. She said that she had always been really attracted to my husband, and she had tried making advances before, but my husband always just shut her down. She admitted to being jealous of me and my perfect life with my husband. I should have seen the signs earlier. When our firstborn was learning to speak, my best friend would always try to get her to call her mama. When she held our daughter for the first time, she accidentally sat in my husband's lap. She has been trying to replace me for years, and I never noticed, and my husband kept rejecting her advances because he only wanted me. She said that she had drank more than she should have at the barbecue, and she decided to try her luck when she saw my husband was going inside alone. I forced her to show her phone as well, and again, there was nothing implying an affair, and all the messages appeared to line up with my husband's phone, so I knew there was nothing deleted or manipulated. She apologized profusely and asked me to not end our friendship over this. I told her that she's nothing to me and she could have been happy for me, and I treated her like a sister all these years just for her to try and steal my life. Now, I know for sure that my husband never cheated. The guilt for doubting him is eating me up. If I tell him that I snooped through his phone and laptop and met up with my ex-best friend to verify that he wasn't cheating, it's going to impact our marriage, and he'll be very disappointed in me for not trusting him, and if anything, he will lose his trust in me. If I don't tell him, the guilt is going to continue eating me up. I've never lied or kept secrets from him before, and I don't want to start now, but this is an impossible choice. He's only ever shown me how much he loves and cherishes me, and he doesn't deserve to be betrayed like this. I will update more when I tell him the truth. Update. I told my husband everything, that I looked through his phone and laptop and that I confronted ex-best friend. I showed him both Reddit posts and told him that even the few comments that speculated that he was having an affair made me paranoid, and I acted on it. I apologized to him for doubting him and thanked him for always being an amazing husband and always turning down her advances and for spoiling me, especially when I was down. He said that he understands, and he said he should have told me earlier about her trying her luck earlier. I'm also starting therapy next week to figure out my paranoia and trust issues, process the end of my friendship, and in general, try to get into a better mental space so I can be better as an individual, wife, and mother. Edit 2. That post pretending to be my husband is not my husband.